Madison County Prosecuting Attorney Rob Wood will present closing arguments on behalf of the state. Fremont County Prosecuting Attorney Lindsay Blake gave opening statements in the case a month ago. Money, power, and sex. Beginning in October 2018, Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell set in a motion of events. Along the way, they included her brother Alex to participate in a conspiracy unencumbered and free of obstacles. This plan was driven by Lori Vallow's desire for and use of money, power, and sex. This plan must end today in the verdicts you render in this trial. A photo of Tylee Ryan is shown on the screen. She was burned and buried in Chad Daybell's backyard. What was left of her body they dumped in a green bucket and buried in a pet cemetery on top of a piece of her skull. Tylee was gone and buried and out of the way, but Lori Vallow kept collecting Tylee's money. Lori never reported that Tylee was missing. She lied to multiple people. She had to keep her body hidden so she could keep getting the money. We now see a photo of J.J. Vallow. J.J.'s voice was silenced forever by a strip of duct tape placed across his mouth. A white plastic bag was placed over his head, where it was secured tightly with duct tape wrapped around and around from his forehead to his neck. The evidence says he struggled, and we'll never know how long he fought before they wrapped tape around his wrists and ankles. He stopped breathing, his heart stopped beating, and he died. It was a brutal, horrific murder of a 7-year-old boy with special needs. Just like Tylee, Lori never reported that JJ was missing or dead. She kept collecting the money. She lied to multiple people and even asked a friend to lie to the police about JJ's location. Just like Tylee, after JJ was murdered, she kept collecting the money. A picture of Tammy Daybell is now on the screen. A loving mother of 5 and a school librarian was murdered in her own home. She was asphyxiated in her own home. The evidence is clear that Lori and Chad and Alex conspired to murder Tammy. Acting together, they caused her death. Her death occurred just a little over a week after a masked gunman attempted to shoot her as she entered her home after a night of church activity. Lori was conveniently gone for both the attempted murder and the successful murder. These trips were not coincidences, and just like Tylee and JJ, there was money to be gained from Tammy's death. $430,000 worth of life insurance, and Lori wasted no time to benefit from that money. We now see wedding photos of Chad and Lori on the beach. They were freed from the obstacles of their kids and wife. They were dancing on the beach. You have seen plenty of evidence in the affair that took place after they met. He's now walking the jury through a timeline that tells the truth as it is displayed on the screen. Lori Vallow is the one who ties this all together. He talks about the attempted shooting of Brandon, Rexburg police getting a call and looking for JJ, the investigation into the missing kids, Tammy's body being exhumed, and the kids being found. Woods talks about Idaho law and this being a crime of agreement. Did Lori agree to have Tylee killed and steal that money? Did she intend for these events to actually happen? And did any of the conspirators perform an overt act in furtherance of that agreement? When it comes to conspiracy, you need to ask yourself, who murdered these people? Did Lori intend for it to happen? And was it one of these overt acts accomplished in furtherance of the conspiracy? You only need to find one overt act. The state has met its burden for each overt act. You only need to find one. Woods is now talking about the Tylee murder charge. Did Lori aid and abet in that murder? Did she encourage the murder? Under the law, if you find Lori aided, abetted, advised, or counseled in the murder of Tylee, you must convict her. Woods says the same must be done with JJ's murder. Woods talks about Tammy's conspiracy charge, asks jurors if Lori was involved. He talks about the grand theft. He tells the jurors to read the instructions carefully and they will find the state has met its burden beyond a reasonable doubt. A reasonable doubt is based on reason and common sense. Use your reason and your common sense as you deliberate. Malice is one of those words that may mean something in the real world versus in court. Follow the jury instruction. Malice can be expressed where someone says they want it to happen, or it can be implied. You will find expressed and implied malice in this case. There is an abundance of malice. Aiding and abetting is just the same as pulling the trigger. Overt acts. On a conspiracy, you must find at least one overt act beyond a reasonable doubt. Overt acts in and of themselves and doesn't need to be illegal, but if it's an act done in furtherance of conspiracy, then it is an overt act and makes it part of the crime. To be clear, nobody here has been charged for their religious beliefs. They have been charged for using those religious beliefs to justify murder. Many jurors are taking notes, others are looking at Woods as he gives his assignment. They couldn't kill the kids in Arizona where they had friends and family. Moving to Rexburg was the catalyst for these murders. They had to hide Tylee and JJ. They had to go somewhere nobody knew them. Moving to Rexburg was the catalyst for these murders, and then Alex followed. Woods lists off overt acts he says Lori used to further conspiracy and grand theft. She never reported her kids missing. She changed bank accounts to get Social Security benefits from her kids, burner phones, etc. All these steps were taken to further the conspiracy. Woods mentions the text messages about Tammy being in limbo and being possessed by a zombie. Woods explains how Alex visited gun ranges, went to Sportsman's Warehouse, and then was located at the church near Chad's house on the night Tammy died. These are all overt acts and steps taken to get to murder. Lori is looking at Woods as he speaks. Woods reviews the digital evidence, including all the searches on the Homer J. Maximus account, Alex Cox's account. On the screen is a list of searches Alex did about prepping an AR in the cold, shooting through a Dodge Dakota, the same vehicle Tammy and Chad owned, and how to drill baffles to make a suppressor. Woods talks about Chad Daybell searching SSW winds on September the 8th. The next day, he knows he will be burning Tylee Ryan in his fire pit, and he needs to know which way the wind will be blowing. This is the only time he searches wind direction. Woods shows the searches on the Lolly Time Forever account and Lori Vallow Google searches. The day Tammy Daybell is being buried, Lori is looking up wedding dresses in Hawaii. Her boyfriend's wife is being buried the day she is already looking for wedding dresses. Woods reads the raccoon text from Chad Daybell to Tammy Daybell on September the 9th. This text is where Chad Daybell told us where to find Tylee Ryan. Tylee Ryan was seen in Yellowstone National Park and then was never seen again, but she turned up in Chad Daybell's pet cemetery. Woods references the James and Elena story. This was all a plan for them to be together without obstacles. Obstacles was the word they used. Woods says this all revolves around money and reminds the jury of Colby Ryan's testimony. Every 2 to 3 months, Lori would tell him, "We are out of money." It was a concern for her. Woods shows the Google location history of Alex Cox and a map that lays out his cell phone activity in the early morning of September the 9th, 2019. We see the map of Alex's movements from the morning of September the 9th, and the GPS hits off his phone. There is a hit at the burn pit on Chad's property, another hit right by where Tylee was buried, and another hit at the gate to the property. We now see a slide after Tylee was buried. They've done the deed. They burned Tylee. They dismembered and buried her. Woods reminds the jury of Melanie Gibbs and David Warwick's testimony. Lori told them JJ was a zombie and acting out. On the morning of September the 23rd, David asks about JJ. Lori tells him he was climbing up the cabinets and refrigerator, so she sent him with Alex Cox. An overt act. Alex Cox took possession of JJ that morning. Woods now shows where Alex was that morning, in his apartment, then on his way to Chad's house with JJ Vallow in tow. No matter how many tips police followed up on, they never found JJ. They never found Tylee except here, where Alex's phone was pinged by GPS. Woods says, pointing to Chad's backyard, Alex spent 17 minutes at Chad's house that day. That grave was not dug in 17 minutes. It was premeditated, planned. Woods talks about Chad getting his burner phone on October the 9th. the day Tammy was shot at. Alex is at his sister's house and then goes to Sportsman Warehouse. You can follow his phone as he scopes out the property. Wood shows a timeline of digital data from that day. 15 texts between Alex and Chad in a short amount of time. What ties Alex to Chad? Lori Vallow. Wood's now talking about the night Tammy died, the night Tammy was murdered. He showed a timeline showing the digital activity from that night between Alex, Chad, and Tammy. An image is deleted from Tammy's phone that night. Alex calls Lori at 11:35 p.m. Lori is in Hawaii. All on purpose, not a coincidence, Wood says. An overhead image of Chad Daybell's property is shown on the screen. Woods explains the warrant was served on the property June 9, 2020. Multiple officers testified to you of watching Chad Daybell in that car, looking over his shoulder to the location of where Tylee was buried. You heard a phone call from that morning from Chad saying they're searching the property. You can hear the fear and guilty in both of their voices. They know what's about to happen. Wood shows the fire pit where Tylee was found. He shows an image of a chain and a jewelry charm found in the debris, being worn by Tylee Ryan. You satellite footage the same day of the disturbance in the ground. You saw how law enforcement found a dog and a cat in the ground. They found what they thought might be human bones and they continued to dig. This is what they found. This is what was left of Tylee Ryan. Charred flesh, dismembered. An image of Tylee's remains are on the screen. Wood shows a chunk of concrete found in the ground sitting on top of Tylee's skull. He says they also found pieces of Tylee here in the shed. A photo of the shed is shown on the screen. We see a pickaxe that was taken to the Idaho State Lab and there was Tylee's DNA in the eye of the pickaxe. We see a photo of the shovel that was tested for DNA. There was blood on the handle and it matched to Tylee Ryan. Woods shows a photo of the grassy area where JJ's body was buried. We now see a photo of the rocks and the boards that were lying on top of JJ. You heard the testimony of multiple officers about the smell emanating and how they found what was a human head. Look at this grave. This was prepared in advance. This was a premeditated murder. You heard testimony that Lori Vallow handed JJ off to Alex Cox. Tylee, JJ, and Tammy can't tell us what happened, but their bodies do. Woods now shows the image of Tylee's bones on the screen. He points to images and marks that show signs of stabbing. We now see a graphic photo of JJ's body wrapped in tape. They did this to a boy with special needs. We now see Tammy's autopsy photo. There was nothing in her body that would have killed her. She had bruises on her arm that the ME stated were consistent with restraint. JJ had bruises on his arms too. We talk about money, power, sex. Lori learned a lesson with Charles Vallow. She learned how to get money before the deaths. Within a week, she's already talking about the Social Security she's going to get. It was planned. We see a history timeline of when Tylee received Social Security money and when Lori switched accounts. Get the money and then commit the murder. He says she made sure to make arrangements to get money before JJ's death as well. Woods explains the amount you need to find for grand theft is $1,000. If you find Lori Vallow connected $1,000 that was not intended for her, you must find her guilty of grand theft. We now see a slide that says money, the benefits of murder. The next slide says power. It does not matter what they believed, it matters what they did. They can believe whatever they want, but when they use that to justify homicide, that changes. They used religion as a tool to manipulate others. Lori manipulated Alex Cox through religion. She manipulated Chad through emotional and sexual control. They manipulated their friends. Woods displays text messages showing the grooming of Alex Cox. Lori Vallow is telling Alex Cox what to do. You never see Alex tell her what to do. She is always telling him what to do. Woods references one message where Alex says, "My lips are sealed." Lori responds, "Good boy." Alex's wife Zulema testified that Alex believed all of it. The only reason religion matters is because it's the tool they use to manipulate others. Who is the common thread here? Lori Vallow. We now see a side that says, sex affair. Text messages are displayed on the screen about kissing for hours, being cheek to cheek. Lori uses sex to manipulate Chad, and Chad seeks confirmation from Lori repeatedly. The next slide says sex obstacles to a future together. Woods points out that when Chad spoke about Tylee and JJ being close to death, their death numbers, Lori responded with, "That is sweet. I miss you desperately. There is no doubt she wants these children gone. She is encouraging their murder. She wants these children gone." This isn't fantasy. Those children were found dead in real life in Chad Daybell's backyard. We now see a slide of text messages from Lori to Chad. After Charles was shot in the chest, Chad texts Lori, "Tammy is close. JJ is at a 2." This was on July 30th, 2019. On July 30th, she's already planning for JJ to go the same way as Charles, to be murdered. The conversation goes into a sexual text message right after Chad and Lori were texting about the deaths of their spouses and the kids. Lori asks Chad if JJ is at a 0 yet. She can't wait for JJ to die. Woods references Lori's text to Chad in 2019. "I feel lost, like I should be doing something to help," referring to the deaths of the kids. Not, "I'm worried about the kids, but I should do something to help get them closer to their deaths." Lori uses sex to get Chad to do what she wants him to do. Lori never says, "Maybe we shouldn't kill our relatives." There's never a hesitation. He references the Wi-Fi password Alex sets up, "Too many kids." Lori responds, "Funny." Wood said, "It would be funny if her kids were still alive and maybe a little rambunctious, but her kids are dead." Woods references the message Chad sent that said their spouses were obstacles. Chad sent a message to Lori on October the 5th asking for Lori to seek a confirmation. Woods now shows a slide documenting that Lori was in Missouri at the time of the attempted shooting. He shows a text from Lori to Melanie B, telling her she can't go out of town, and Melanie responds, "Okay, Captain." Woods says Lori was in charge. She was in command. "Ladies and gentlemen, you have your instructions. You are going to go back and deliberate. Read them carefully. Consider all the evidence. Look at all the facts. Look at the timeline. Charles Vallow, Tylee Ryan, JJ, and Tammy. All within a short time frame. How are they all tied together? Who could have killed these people? We have Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, and Alex Cox. Who had the motive to kill these people? Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. Who benefits from these murders? Lori Vallow gets Tylee's money. She gets JJ's money. Chad and Lori get Tammy's money. What does your reason and common sense tell you? You've seen what happened to her children, what happened to Tammy. She never reported the children missing. She lied and she lied and she lied about where they were. And while she lied, she kept collecting the money. What does justice for these victims require? It requires a conviction on every count. Photos of JJ, Tylee, and Tammy are on the screen. You must convict her. Woods is done.